Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. It's our pleasure to be with you today in one of our new online free sessions. We've started this session almost since last March, so we are approaching 1 year to have these online sessions since we were hit by this pandemic. But looking at the positive side and the bright side, we are sharing knowledge and information and expertise, and we're trying to engage people everywhere. So today's session, we have our dearest brother and guest, Mr. Khalil Haddawi. He is international business consultant, and he's a CEO of GOS Consulting in Canada. So he will introduce himself more because he has extensive experience in different areas in reliability management, maintenance, Six Sigma, process efficiency, and asset management, of course. And he will be our guest today. So hopefully, inshallah, we'll have a great presentation from him. And my greetings to you. I'm Dr. Muhammad Rabi Sheikh. I'm founder of HR Leaders Kuwait and Quality and Excellence Middle East. And I'm also the CEO of Tanmiya Consulting Group. So today's session with Mr. Khalil, he will talk to us about how can we use the asset management framework to improve performance and achieve operational excellence. So welcome, Mr. Khalil. It's our pleasure to have you with us today. And I will leave you to introduce yourself, and then we can start our session.
Thank you, Brother Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Dear all, thank you for being with us today. As Dr. Muhammad said, it has been almost 1 year that we are a little bit not in a normal living. We have to deal with it. However, training, knowledge, and expertise is a living time. We are not stopping to transfer our expertise to the industry. I'm the CEO of Global Operation and Service Consulting in Canada. The organization being since 2009. We've been serving across the world for any type of industries, including manufacturing, service, governments, and also big industries such as petrochemical, refinery, mining, and other companies and other organizations. Therefore, I've been doing a lot of consulting here across the world, especially in North America, Africa, Middle East. We serve the different industries. And today, I'm glad to be part of this free online session. And we'll share a little bit of knowledge and expertise and how we can combine certain techniques and methodologies and principles as a high level for the organization, how we can advance performance. Okay, so the session of today, the overview of this presentation today. Next slide. Next slide, please. Dr. Mohammed. No, the introduction. The previous slide.
I was sharing, but there was problem in this. So let me pause the share one moment.
Sure.
And I will come back. Okay, shall we start from here or shall we have the next slide?
No, this is good. This is all good. So this presentation is an introduction, not only an introduction, but I will highlight a few things. What asset management do for an organization? Where is our revenue? Where is our budget? how can we lead either a continuous improvement or performance of our organization through asset management. And this four, that's what we're going to look at it is if we are managing assets, how asset can lead the entire operations to what we call operational excellence. We're going to hear a lot about operational excellence. Then I will look at it how we can measure and how we can go to a world-class operational excellence. Next slide, please. So the topics we will talk, I will get you a little quickly. What do we mean by asset management? A lot of people do talk about asset. We do have asset, but what does it mean? And how do we manage it? The second is, we'll take you to how it looks like, or how it should be. That's what we call it the framework. There's a certain areas and there is a certain levels and how we can get top of the management to the senior managements and low and management and how those functions and they are working all together. Once we understand the framework, we'll take you how do we measure exactly our operations maturity. When we talk about maturity is the level where we start getting more knowledge and control of our operations. Then once we know how to measure, we need to improve, that's for sure. If we need to improve, that we have to design a model toward exactly the operation excellence. That's what we call it the design phase of the project or of the strategy. Once we do the design, now we're going to look at it where we can improve exactly. Where are the quick wins? Where are exactly the keyword to perform? And we can perform within a year up to 3 years. So within that time frame, we're going to look at it how this asset management and all the initiatives can help the organization toward a certain performance or what we call it as well, improvement. Once we understand that, now we have the framework, we know where to go, and we know where we have failures, and we know what the challenges. Now we need to map the process in a monthly basis to get those improvements. Next slide. So what does it mean asset management? Asset management has 3 areas. First area, we will call it the system, and the second is process. And we cannot do system and process without having personnel, that's for sure. Therefore, what do we mean about system? What do we mean about process and personnel? One of the things that we have, even if you are in banking, you should have a system. The system is anything on either an ERP system or can be a computer, your database on the server. How do you use those systems to capture data? Without the data, we can do nothing, okay? Keep this in mind that without the data, we cannot measure, we cannot improve, there is no gaps, there is no where we start, where we have to go, etc. So same for airports. If you go to the airport, how do you know that the traveler already bought his ticket? How do we know the traveler is already in the airport? How do we know him that he already crossed the security checkpoint? How do we know he's at the gate? How do we know he is in the at the flight? All these steps, what we call it the process, they are managed through a database in a system, right? So now we start understanding what's exactly the system. Now the process is everything that you do from A to Z, or we call it as well in quality management, we call it an input. Then we have a process where we transform the inputs to an output. An output is the result, and an input it can be a data. So we transform the information to inside the process within standards, can be procedures, it can be documentation, and it goes toward an output. And who's managing all this process and system? For sure is people, right? So those people, they should have a certain knowledge, competencies, and leadership to manage all these processes and understanding how to use systems inside these processes. Okay, so now the definition, what I call it, a generic definition of asset management is any plant. When we talk about a plant, is the organization or the company, or we're going to talk it as well a site. There is a lot. It depends on in industries. If we go to a bank, we call it the branch. If we go to the airport, we call airport that located in a certain area. But when you go to manufacturing, we're going to hear the plant number 25X. If we're talking about mining or refinery, they're going to tell you the plant at, I don't know, in a certain area in Kuwait. And they're going to tell you, this is in south of the Kuwait, there is this plant in here. So the terminology doesn't make a big difference. What it makes difference is your process is performing to its design standard. What do we mean about the design? Design is when you buy something or you build something, it should have some certain requirements. I'll give you an example. It can be very simple. You have a pump used to pump water. Okay, this pump should pump 20 liters of water per minute. That is what I call it, the capability. Okay, that's how it's designed. Now, when we take that pump and we install it and we start using it, it's pumping only 10 liters per minute. So you are only performing 50%. I give you an example in the service. We in the bank, usually when we have 3 cashiers open, every cashier in average, we have to serve a client, one client per every 15 minutes. If that's the capability of the process, now the question, are we really meeting this requirement of 15 minutes or are we beyond? If we're going to say no, in average today, our service is about 30 minutes. So you are doubling the time, which is your effectiveness is only 50%. This is how it works. So asset management is to understand the performance of the process. Are we looking on the design? The second, any equipment that you have, it can be compressor, can be generator, can be air conditioner, can be the heating system, can be electrical motor, can be conveyor, whatever your equipment that you have. Is the equipment operating to its capability? Is the maximum of its requirement? Then we come to the maintenance. If you have equipment, if you have a building, even you have a mobile equipment, if you have a vehicle, service vehicle, all these, what we call it, assets, will be maintained. If they should be maintained, there is an annual budget. Keep in mind, before to go to the following year, we should have a budget to maintain these equipments. So how it looks at the budget and how it looks at the capital. For sure, every year, every 3 years, 5 years, you have to replace an equipment which is end of its life. Now we're going to bring a new one, which is a capital investment. How the current situation on the budget and the capital budget is maintained and followed from maintenance perspective. The next one is what I call it, operating assets. Those operating assets, any equipment that's currently in use, how is performing? If you buy an equipment, it should stay 5 years, but for the last 5 years, those equipment last only 3 years. Why? You are losing 2 years of your budget. What we call the life cycle. Every equipment has a life cycle. Okay, and the asset management framework is toward exactly the life cycle of that equipment. If we go to the airport, they use a lot of compressors. They use a lot of some light vehicles and etc. Are they sustained for the life cycle that been designed for? And the last one, like we said, is our personnel. Whatever do you have, any people in your organization, they should have not only the knowledge or a degree, a university degree, they should have also a competencies. And the competencies is, if you have a supervisor is not only he knows the process, how he does use most of supervision skill set. Is he managing properly? Is he leading properly? Does he know his role and responsibilities? Is he taking ownership of the entire process? So this is only an introduction of asset management. We can go a deep dive in every element, but at least you have a little understanding the three big components of asset management. The next slide, please. Now we're going to talk about the framework. The framework has three elements. The first element is where we can see business standard, which is on the left, the first block. Okay. The first block here on the left calls business standards. That's where a high level of the organization, they're going to talk more about how do we drive business? Do we have a strategy to drive our business? Okay. If you have an organization, doesn't matter how big it is, can be a little organization of 20 people, can be 500 people, can be 5,000 people. It doesn't matter. Can be single, as can be corporate. On the left side, business standard meant an entire corporation or the big company. It starts from the president, CEO, the CFO, all the executive committee. They shall draft the business vision. What exactly the mission of the organization? Every year we should have an objective. In 2019, we have an objective that is almost completely different of 2020. And it's going to be more tight on 2021. Why? Because the market is evolving. So on the left side, that's where we build the vision, mission, and objectives and values of the organization. Also, what we build the high level commitments. How much we need to gain on revenue, how much we need to reduce on our expenses. Shall we reduce it by 10% and increase revenue by 3%? How we can do that? We cannot push operations to meet certain objectives without having objectives coming from high level. Is the executive management that it drive the strategies, and anything at the bottom, what I call it the bottom, which is the operations, those that they brings numbers or results, or we'll see if that is meeting our requirement. Once we build that portion, we push it to the management committee to build the business standard and requirement. And once we get those standards or requirements, we go completely in the right, what we call it MPS loop. The MPS is the maintenance process system. How are we going to manage all asset framework in that block? In that block, first of all, we have to draft the protocol. Those protocol is how we can use safety. How can we use maintenance? How can we use reliability? How can you use the budget? How can we use our vendors? How can we use the shutdowns? How can we do outage? How can we work in COVID or any other non-controllable situations? That's where it fits in there. So in that portion, that block, we can see anything related to maintenance, stores, reliability, work management, shutdown management. We can see our vendors, suppliers, and everybody in there. How that block is well built and has a good structure to build the process. Once we build the process, then we leave the process in a time being. Can be weekly, can be bi-weekly, can be monthly, but not more than that. Maximum is following the process performance in a monthly time frame. Then any gap between the result and the objectives, it goes on the middle, what we call it BI loop, is a business improvement loop. That's where we have continuous improvement. We can use Six Sigma techniques, we can use any other techniques or methodologies from lean manufacturing. We can use a different methodologies to reduce the gap and get those performance in a positive. All the blocks that you see around the framework, that's where we can detail the role and responsibilities of any ownership personnel. We can do it for the engineer, we can do it for supervisor, we can do it for coordinator, we can do it for manager, we can do it for anybody of the organization. We can draft those elements to align every key member of the organization to the business standard. So why we do that? We have to show them that you are responsible, but also you are accountable. You can be responsible as a supervisor for the supervision, but you are accountable to drive safety, to drive maintenance, to drive other elements. Plus, it tells us where are the boundaries, what the supervisor shall do and not shall do. And those boundaries, that's where a lot of people and a lot of industries still having a big challenge. For sure, leadership is a key element to success. If we don't have someone from the organization that's driving the leadership, because leadership is different than management. Anybody can manage a process. Anybody can manage data. Anybody can manage system. But we don't manage people. Keep this in mind. We do not manage people or our personnel. We lead them. We lead them by examples. We lead them by training. We lead them with a lot of things, a long vision, with strategies. We lead them by a lot of things. Okay, that's another topic. It falls on in other topic in management, but leadership is part of the framework. And already I talked about competencies. For sure, if you have an engineer is taking a leadership on or a management on in a certain process, he should be competent to meet the requirements. Otherwise, everything will fall we'll see it in a result. For sure, you're gonna see a result is falling. Then when we're gonna ask him and tell him, well, I did my best, and this is what it is. No, there is always a we can succeed, always. For sure, if we develop everything, okay, now how we will sustain it. The purpose is not only to build, is how to sustain it, and is going always in positive direction. Not only say, well, I did it, it's the game is over. No, the game is a living journey. You have to live it every single day. Okay, so if you achieve something, make sure that you're going to sustain it and toward another level for organization. For sure, I know that you have a lot of questions. We're going to keep the questions till the end, whatever Mr. Mohammed he felt is the right to answer, but I will answer to everything. Next slide, please. So now you understand.
Okay, before going to the next slide, Mr. Khalil, if you allow me,
Sure.
Please, if anyone has any question, please write it in the chat box, okay? And we'll find the right time, maybe toward the end, to answer it, okay? Thank you.
So now as you map the process, not the process, I'm sorry. So now you map the framework. So we know every function of the organization, they do have a standard, they do have requirement, they do have objectives. Though we have some boundaries. So the HR cannot interfere with finance. Finance cannot interfere with operations. Operations cannot interfere with maintenance. Maintenance cannot interfere with engineering, etc., etc. But all these people, they should work together, right? A lot of people, they said, I'm in the finance. I don't know what's going on in operations. That's a big mistake. Believe me. If the finance, they don't know what's going on operations, not technical, I'm not talking about technical or something. They should know an overview where money goes, how the money is spent. There is already we're lacking in that area. Okay, if we talk to store or spare part, and we're going to tell them what's going on in HR. They said, I don't know, I don't manage HR. We never ask you to manage HR, but at least you know, are we hiring new people? Do you need people? Do you need the support? Everybody is tied up under one organization, okay? So those are the functions or the elements, the pillars of the organization. Now, once we draft that framework, we have to measure. We have to measure all of them. Without any exception, we have to understand where are they and are they doing good? They are not doing good based on what? Based on best practices. Why certain industries they are doing better? Why certain companies in the world they are doing much better? They're sustaining their operations and we are failing. That's the question. They said, why? Well, first of all, we never had the opportunity to have a strategy, and we never had a way to measure if we are doing good or not. So if you are keeping doing things over and over in the same way, don't expect a different result. If you want to change things, you better measure it, see where you have a gap, build certain what I call it initiatives, and how we're going to do it. So this slide here, it shows you exactly how we do that. Either you tell me, well, Mr. Khalil, would like to have you in Kuwait in our organization. Basically, we are not looking for a complete assessment. We have 5 areas that we'd like to measure. That's fine. We can measure only those 5 areas. But if you tell me we would like to look at it for all the elements, can be between 12 elements and beyond, which is complete, then we're going to look at on the business systems, we're going to look at on process, we're going to look at on reliability, we're going to look at it in inventory, we're going to look at it on communication, people, how everything interfere to each other. So it's up to you. But if you want to start slowly, that's fine. Okay, then we start building strategies and framework. Then we'll tell you, well, you are doing good here, and here you're not doing good. So what it gives me, it gives me where I'm standing comparing to the rest of the world. Okay, that's what I call it, look into the gap. Those gaps that this way we measure, it gives us the gaps. Once we know the gaps, we prioritize them. We tell you, look, this is where you have a huge gap. Let's put a plan, and that plan, we call it the initiatives. We build the initiatives, and we start rolling all these initiatives in a certain time frame, and we start to change the culture. If you are not changing anything, again, you will keep doing things same over and over, and don't expect any different result. All right, so that's what we call it, transformation, or we call it change management. A lot of people they can give you a lot wording, how they express it. Point is, we have a certain engagement. We know how we measure. Now we're going to start changing. We can change process. We're going to change standards. We're going to change, but we are not changing people. We never can change people, but people, they will change themselves to follow the new standards. All right, don't get confused. Then we start building the processes, and we will train and mentor people. We'll give them a skill, we enhance their skill set. We'll give them all the training that required to be engaged to new standards. Of course, most of the time we work with the human resources department to ensure that we have a program in place. The program is sustained, and every year we start gaining a knowledge and expertise with our people. And of course, everything is, we need technologies. Technology is how we're going to work with this system. We can work with your CMMS, with your ERP systems. It doesn't matter what you are working with, those technologies are part of these changes. Okay, now we understand how to measure. What are we going to do next? Next slide, please. So now we measure. So once we measure, we have two sections. Either we go on the portion, what we call it, the enterprise, which is more, we're going to look at it on soft skills and soft things of the organization. We're going to talk about leadership, culture, expertise, training, governance. We're going to be very, very, very high level of the enterprise. We're going to talk about more the strategies, how we can have our CFO more knowledgeable and on the leadership, not on what he's doing. Otherwise, he's not a CFO. He already has a huge package with knowledge and expertise of the work. Now we're gonna go and look at on the other side, which is the governance, leadership, and culture. We'll start how he can work with other colleagues. The other side, we'll call it the operations or processes. We're going to talk about design, how we design the process, how we approach the way we work, how we measure the performance of what we do. Okay, a lot of people, if you go to the banking, which is mostly, it's not the industry that we take care most. Is like left in behind, and we said, okay, the only thing how we measure performance in the bank, how much we make money. Well, it depends. There is a lot of variables how you can achieve performance. Maybe the market helps you out and this and that. But let's see, in a crisis, are you losing or are you making money when it's crisis? There is a way how we can measure the performance in every element of that banking, from the receptionist to the cashier to the manager to the supervisor, and goes here and there. We can do that. We build the ownership against the process. That process belongs to who? To the manager, to the engineer, to the supervisor, to the executive, who own that process. Then we build the infrastructure and metrics. Metrics, they are the KPIs and dashboard. So everything should be dynamic, and both of them, and the best companies in the world, the balance between the design for the enterprise and the design for the process. So there's always something. I cannot be accountable for a process, and I have metrics, but I don't know how to lead those metrics. I don't know how to push that to my colleagues and other people. So I have a strength in one side, but I don't have it in the other side. So when we build the design, we ensure that we have a balance between what I'm accountable for and how I'm going to do it. So this is give you just an overall. There's a lot of details for every component, and we measure the design. And once we build that design, now you start having something tangible in your hand to work with. Next slide, please. Now, we come back with a matrix, and that matrix has over than 40 elements. We'll say where they fit in this matrix in here. I'm going back. I'm going to your organization. I'm going to ask you, how do you do in your leadership? Okay. So this is one question to all the attendees today. I'm going to ask you, but I don't need an answer right now. You can just answer on the chat room. How do you measure leadership? So this is the first question. Yes or no? Do you measure leadership performance? The second, most of you, I believe that you have KPIs. Second question is all your KPIs, are they tied to the organization strategy? Yes or no? Every department in your organization, I believe, do have KPIs. And the question is your KPIs in maintenance, take it for instance, in maintenance department, are they tied all the way up to the organization strategy? Yes or no? Okay. So in this metric over here has 5 levels. You can see here we talk about engagement, where there's a small bullet on the left. Then the second gate, we call it foundation, and the core of HPM. HPM is high performance management. Then the third gate is strategies and capabilities. The fourth is high performing organization. The last one is a world class or operational excellence. We call it also the production or productivity. Okay, so these 5 levels are the same as the maturity. We can measure your organization per element. We can tell you, you are not doing good here and there, and this is what you're going to do. But where you need, make sure the bottom, you see that what it said, principles and culture, that's it's the foundation of your organization. If that is still yellow or red, I cannot go do anything on the second level, the third or fourth or fifth. We need to build that foundation first. It's like a house. You cannot build the ceiling or the roof and you are not building foundation. Sooner or later will fall. Okay, so what we do in this element over here, this is only the summary, but there is a lot of work behind it. We can talk about visual boards. People that they work in hospitals. Imagine you have no signage, you have no visuals. How do you know where is the receptionist? How do you know where we have to do a blood check? How do you know where is the nurse? None. You cannot even know where is the emergency door or the ER door or where we can have the scan. So this is only one example. So when you come to the bank, sometimes imagine you have nothing, you come to the bank and what are you going to do? You step in, then you freeze. Why? I don't know who I'm going to talk to. But if you go to the bank and you have for everything a name and you have a light, if it's green, it means the person is available, the cashier is available. If it's red, means is already occupied. Imagine these tools can be used in your process. If I see a light is red, I know the equipment is stopped. There is a problem. If it's green, means everything is working smooth, right? So this is only one of the examples. There is a lot of things. We're going to talk about RACI, how we can build a role and responsibility and accountability of the person. You tell me, we have a production supervisor. My question to you, does your supervisor have a role and role responsibility description? You're going to tell me yes, good. But if I believe, and I'm pretty sure, if I work with him, I spend 2 days with him, he does not do not even 40% what he's entitled for. Why? Because he doesn't have a daily and weekly route map, where we call it the dialogues. So the dialogues is we build a route for the supervisor every day what he needs to achieve, to not forget. We are human, we forget. So we build a route map for him. So this is how we do it. So once we go from stage or gate 1 to level 1 to 2, so once we do it and we are good, we lock it, we control it to not fall back again. Then we start working on the second, and once we are comfortable and we see results, we lock and control to not fall back, and we keep going like this. And this is not, you don't tell me this can change your organization within a month or a year. This is a living journey. However, it takes between a year and a half to 2 years to start seeing changes. If you do investment, don't expect 3 months you sit on me, well, Khalil, you showed me a lot of things, but there is no result. Well, first of all, you have to be engaged, committed to it, make sure you have a culture change, and leave it. You have to give time for the change. But after a year and a half, you will see those changes. Okay, next slide, please.
But I have comment here, Mr. Khalifa, allow me, regarding the 1 year or 1 year and a half. So many people maybe will not wait for this long time to see change. So maybe there are some quick wins, but the real change, yes, it will take time, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. The quick wins, what I call it, the hanging fruits. There's always a hanging fruits. Those hanging fruits, usually after 3 to 6 months, we can see a little bit difference, but don't expect a big performance. Okay, same as in a capital project. So following on this one here, when we build these elements, for sure you have to develop a business management performance design. We design it. Then we'll continue overseeing the management fundamental elements toward performance. So that's what I'm talking about, the foundation. We build the fundamental elements, and we go stage by stage. If we cannot measure any element, we're not taking it in consideration. Everything should be measurable. Okay, so if it's measurable, I can understand where I was, where I am, and where I want to go. And those gates that I talk, which is gate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it allows us to see the change. And once we get to a certain level, lock it. And there is a way how we lock it to not fall back again. Why? A lot of people after 3 months, they go back to the old routine. And how can we avoid to not go back again? Okay. The highlight management performance gaps to achieve a world class. Always we review in a monthly basis. We can review where we are today against the strategy or dashboard of the organization. And again, and I said, the changes cannot be made within a week or a month. If we're looking for a high achievement, we're talking about mid-long-term plan, and that we're going to look at it on a big change. And for sure, we measure the payback. Whatever the way we're going to use it, there's always a payback somewhere. Now, once we build all this in here, let's go and see what's going to happen. Next slide, please. Next slide. Now we're going to say, all right, everything looks fine. We built everything. Now we need something how to work with. Perfect. Now you understand the strategy. We measure it. We know the gap. Now I show you. Now I'm taking a big picture of the gaps. We're going to turn them as initiatives or opportunities. Once I get that one, now I'm going to tell you how I'm going to do it. That's the road to achieve it. Okay. So the road, it takes 3 things. What will be the strategy? How I'm going to do it from tactical standpoint, and how I'm going to improve it. When we talk about strategies, is to design the roadmap. That's the big strategy. We need to define it. A lot of people said, I know how to do it. They're going to take a piece of paper and start writing a lot of things. That's not We're not designing, we are writing. Now, we have to design something. Design to see a correlation between all the elements and all the initiatives and how I'm going to do it and how I will track it in time. Okay. The second is, this is a must. You have to define the requirement for success. Don't tell me, well, I need to change this pump by this pump and it will work. No, it's not easy like that. It takes a lot of science and engineering. It takes a lot of leadership, a lot of knowledge to define precisely the requirement that will take me to the either to succeed or to improve, and show me the path to drive the result. Show me how you're going to do it to get that result. That's for sure. The second one is tactical. Now we're going to come to the element itself. We're talking about asset management here. So we need to define the asset management program. What will be the content for that asset management program? Show me what all the elements. Are we going to be looking only in maintenance, or we're going to look at on the spare parts, or we're going to talk only about safety, or we're going to talk about only reliability? What are we talking here? Okay, show me that program. Then once I know the program, we'll develop and implement the successful factors toward the performance. That's one of the other elements. Now, once we have the program, we have the elements and everything. Now we're going to start using some continuous improvement tools toward those elements. For instance, this is just a simple example. People that they work in airports. One of the continuous improvement tool that we use called SMED, single minute exchange of die. When the aircraft stopped, okay, when it comes to the airport, it landed, it stopped. When it stops, not even the door open. Look what going on the ground. What do you call it? The ground service. A lot of people already start working on it. Already start looking on inspection of the tires. They're looking of the cylinders, looking on the wings. We're looking on the structure, looking for something to happen. Visual inspection. And you have the fuel. The truck of the fuel stops, and you start waiting for people to get out. Then you start fueling. So why we do that? There is a reason why. Because that aircraft has a time when it lands and has a time where must take off. On all between is the responsibility of the airport service or the ground service. And how to eliminate any waste of time? Using SMED. And I bet a lot of people, do you do it and you don't know, not even the tool, how to do it. So this is only one example. Right? So there's a lot of tools that we use on continuous improvement to work. Now, how can we get this roadmap in something has a picture? Next slide. So this slide here, it shows the design. All right. I know this is complex. I don't want to mix you up with all this stuff in here, but I'm telling you here what I'm showing you. There is a way how we do that. There is a design how we do it. The only thing I will tell you here, you can see here which says 3 to 5 years breakthrough. That's the corporate. So the corporate or higher level of the organization, they're gonna give us what they're looking on the 3-5 years timeline where they would like to achieve. But currently in 2021, we come and we take those elements. We're gonna take translate them to one year breakthrough objectives. And once we get those 1 year, so big, this is a high level, okay? Don't mix things. It's a really high level. I'll give you an example. We see, well, we'd like to reduce our expenses by 25%. That's what we're gonna see in there. Companies do have a lot of problems, issues in safety, a lot of incidents, accidents, explosive, whatever it is. We're gonna put one big initiative that it hits the organization. We're gonna call it in that point in there. It's zero harm. journey. We're not going to put in there. And those big elements in 1 year, we're going to translate them to improvement priorities. Those priorities is a higher level projects. Okay. So we take every one from the left in 1 year and we give it other projects. Those projects, remember what I said, projects should be high level and not only a quick win, but can be achievable in 1 year. We're not talking about 3 to 5 years. When I talk about a year and a half to 2 years, those the changes, big changes. And we take those improvement priorities, each one, we're going to look at on the initiative or the milestone to drive those elements. All right. So when I'm going to put it in there, once I put it in there, just on the right side, just above the legend, we're going to ask, what do you need? Do you need technologies? Do you need the CFO? You need the production engineer? Who do you need? When you put those people in there and we start correlating who must own those initiatives. All right. So this is how we design it. So you can see a big picture. And once we do that, we have another design where we follow numbers. We're going to measure every element. We put a target and we start following the measurement every week to see, are we doing good, yes or no? If not, why? And we start controlling those elements. So here I don't want to get you too much in detail, but I'm telling you there is a way, there is a design, there's a lot of things as a high level we can do for any organization. Next one, please. So you're going to tell me everything from the start to now, where it can be applied. Can be applied to any industry. It can be product, can be service, can be whatever you're going to talk about. It can be a bank, can be underground, can be pharmaceutical, can be manufacturing, can be automotive, can be military. Then you're going to ask me if I already did something like this. Yes, I did it for petrochemical in Jubail, in Saudi. We did it for Canadian airport. We did it for underground mine. We did it for open pit mine. We did it for some refinery in the USA. We did it for sawmills, paper mills in Canada. We did it for manufacturing in Canada. We did it in certain hospitals, banking as well. All multiple companies. Now the question is, did we see any payback? For sure. So why do we win a project if there is no payback? So next slide, it shows you, I cannot put the name of the company, but I would like to keep it as a confidential. But you see the case number one, it was for a mine plant. This is the process mill. You do one shutdown every year. And the shutdown, it was planned 44 hours, and every hour the revenue was about $1 million US per day, 24 hours. And the objective is if we can reduce that shutdown. It's not a downtime; it's a shutdown. And we drop it to 28 hours, from 44 to 28. You're going to tell me how? A lot of techniques. We use a lot of techniques. We designed the process. We designed the roadmap. We look at on the maintenance protocol, and we build some role responsibility of the ownership people. We build the leadership committee. We track it every single, how much cost per hour, the downtime, material lost, how much the rental equipment, and everything. We tracked everything. And at the end, we saw that we saved about $11 million Canadian, which is very, very good. We dropped it by almost 50%. That was tremendous. that the question that you're going to ask me is that can be repeatable every year. Yes, but not on the same amount of improvement. Always the first time we'll see a big gap. So once you use the first gap, the second will be what we call it the refine. So we start refining. That's where Six Sigma it gets involved. So maybe in the first time is 50%, but in the next time it's going to be only 10%. The third year is going to be 2% to 1%. The only point is we start always looking on the big factor, the where we can get money. Maybe next year is no more shutdown. We're going to look for something else like energy consumption. Maybe the other one is a capital project. So every year we have one big element or factor that we're going to work on, but not always the same. All right. So here there is some examples. Yes, there's always a payback. There is always where we can get money, and that's it. What I have for you. I hope you enjoyed this webinar. And please, if you have any questions, I'm here to answer. If I cannot answer all the questions and you still have questions, please forward your questions to Dr. Mohammed, and we will be very, very happy and pleased to go back to you by answers, examples, or even in, let's say, discussions, or we can look at it. Thank you again. And now I think we're open for questions.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Khalil, for this wonderful presentation. Actually, it was very comprehensive and in spite of short time, but I think we have a lot of information. So would like to have any questions, please feel free to ask or write on the chat box so that we can answer the questions. For me, I'd say the projects that you have been doing, I mean, does this apply to Canada or States or Europe, or can be applied anywhere?
I'm an international consultant. I'm working everywhere. I'm working in Canada, USA. I'm working in Africa. I do have some clients in Middle East. Europe, I'm not working much with Europe, but it's most of my clients, let's see, is about 60% in Canada and US. The rest is balanced between Middle East, Africa, and South Asia.
Okay, so what are the main challenges that you find in these projects? What are the main challenges that you face or find?
Well, thank you for this question. This is really good. The big challenges is a lot of people, they don't believe. The question when we go to a client and we start talking about, especially when we're going to start talking about with the high managers, it can be executive managers, is they don't believe for the change. They said, we are comfortable and we would like to pursue as we are. So when we stop and we believe in our only our beliefs, then we start screaming on the other side and say, how come IBM did well? Well, because they accept the change. Then you're going to say, wow, this company in USA, they are advanced, they're making a lot of money. How? Because they believe in change. They are looking to get to another level. That's the reason, is to believe in change and get a commitment from the high level of seniors.
Yes, yes, I think, yes, this is the first thing that if you need to start any project, you need to get management commitment and people buy-in so that they can follow. As you said in the beginning, you cannot manage people, but you can manage the process, manage everything, but you have to convince people first, then they can do whatever you like.
Well, before we get in the buy-in, we'd like to have certain people, especially for executive people, to understand why we do changes, why we do this and that. And once they believe, the second is to get the engagement and commitment. Right? then we escalate everything toward the buy-in from the rest of the organization.
Great. We have here a question talking about, with the current crisis in the aviation sectors everywhere and in the States also as well, the sector has been affected definitely with the pandemic. So how can we have some strategies to lead through this crisis? I mean, that with all this pandemic, can we still do such type of projects with this pandemic, or what can we do in this?
Well, if you look at what's going on in the market and industries, most of the companies they slow their processes a little bit, but not much. So the question is, they turn around and they are trying to manage their operations in this crisis. Yes, there is definitely a way how we manage. A lot, like I'll give you an example here in Canada. A lot of the organization, they are remotely working, but still the operations live and working perfectly. They turn around to other approaches. One of the approaches is there is what we call it, the crisis management or safety management protocol being changed. The second, a lot of companies starts going on digitalization of their certain areas. They said, well, why do I need to have an engineer in the manufacturing? This person can work from distance, but how he can get um, documentation, everything being transferred from him to the people inside the company. There is a way. Yes, you can turn around. It depends on the aspect of your organization and where you have a big challenge, and we can help you out. That's for sure.
I highly believe that whenever such incidents happening like pandemic or crisis, I think this is maybe the right time to revisit your processes and revisit your system, because now you are looking for ways to save the costs. So instead of laying off people or just reducing salaries or doing whatever, you can revisit your processes, check your system that you are working on as integrated system, and see where are the gaps, and you can improve. So you can reduce a lot of amount of money due to inefficiencies.
One of the examples in banking in Canada, in banking, most of the transaction, if you go to any bank, you don't see clients coming into the bank. Now everything is done by online support, and it's done remotely, and it's worked perfect. So a lot of now the banking, they are using Teams, they are using Zoom. Even documentation is approved, signed and approved directly online. So most of the companies, doesn't mean the bank is closed, they're still open, but they reduce a lot of their service from physical to remote, and a lot of things they are online. And but there is a way how we teach the client how to do things, and we support them. There is a certain support.
Great. So I mean that you can use this pandemic in your favor, okay?
Okay.
And we always say about the digitalization part, that who is leading digitalization in the past year, 2020 and 2021, definitely? Is it the top management, or the chief technology officer, or the IT director, or the COVID-19? Which one is driving for digitalization?
Well, there is. If we look at it by nature, nothing comes from within. It should be always a reason why we do things. So to answer your question, is the COVID. If it was not COVID, it was a digitalization, but not as we expected. Now the COVID show up, and inshallah will disappear soon. Uh, human by nature, human being will adapt himself to his surrounding. So now we have a pandemic, and everybody starts talking about digitalization. They start putting a lot of money, but before they said, no, I don't need it, it's too much money, it's not worth it. now we see human how people think. You know, if there is no reason, we don't do nothing. But looking for improvement, uh, you know,
Yes.
if I'm not hungry, I'm not chasing for bread. So
Yes, yes. But but also there is another important point that I've been seeing in many years in different organizations, that whenever the people goes for automation, digitalization, whatever we name it, they take the same process and just put it in automated format. Okay, so people needs to revisit their process, ensure that it's efficient, and then they automate. Okay, or digitalize, not
definitely.
the other way around. So I mean, this is very important point for people to consider as well. So I'd like to thank you. Any questions? I'd like to thank you, Mr.
Dr.
Khalil, for
I
this.
really thank Mr. Khalil for his wonderful presentation. In light of the issue what you talked about just now, the COVID crisis, the planned shutdown is ideally it is taking 44 hours, and he aimed to reduce it for 24 to 26 hours, and such a meticulous planning throughout the year, through detailed planning, organization of the work involved, asset management, removal of asset from the production, periodic maintenance, all that you are doing. But unexpectedly, the COVID crisis hit and you had to shut down. So what is the point of, narrowing down this shutdown, and then at the end of the day, is which is beyond your control? This my reflection. Can you answer this, Mr. Khalil?
Well, first of all, this is a really good question, and thank you for bringing this insight. Yes, if you have an organization that or a process that is require a shutdown, you have to do the shutdown. Now, how do we do a shutdown in this crisis? First of all, that we're going to look at, well, I'm not changing anything on the shutdown management protocol. Nothing, nothing. We keep it as is. The only portion I will be looking at it is the safety portion of it. Once I am going to look at the portion is the contractors, outsourced people, vendors. But internally, there is a way how we manage our personnel internally. Is people that is coming from outside that's going to do the work, that is a risk. How do you manage that risk in that point? There is a way. One of the things that we do is I don't use my internal personnel to do a shutdown if you're using external. However, I will put only one personnel, one person of my organization to lead the shutdown, and we work with the external people. However, there is a safety protocol that we built and we implemented. We trained the vendors to comply to every single stage of that safety protocol. We send them, we send all the personnel, which is the external, to do a COVID test. And that COVID test, it should be done within 48 hours before they show up to the site, not 1 month before or 2 months before. No, within 48 hours, the vendor or the supplier, they're gonna go for the test. They send me the report. He's tested negative. He comes to the site. He go to the safety department. There's a questionnaire, and we ensure they have all the PPEs, plus they have all the new safety protocol, means a mask, full face, and etc. So we double our safety to make sure they are protected and our personnel protected. But from work, it doesn't change nothing. The only safety, and it's work perfect, doesn't change nothing, and even it goes really smooth.
Thank you.
I hope it answers your question.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Mr. Khalil, for your time and for this presentation. I'd like to thank everyone who attended us today. Hopefully you find this presentation useful for you. And inshallah, we'll send you the copy of the presentation, and we'll upload the presentation in our YouTube channel. Okay, and inshallah we will arrange with Mr. Khalil to do another training for us. So whoever will be interested to go deep into this part, we can arrange inshallah for another training. Okay, so thank you so much, and looking forward to see you in coming meetings inshallah, and wishing you all the best. Thank you so much. Take care.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salam.
Thank you, Mr. Khalil. Thank you, Dr. Rabia.